blessing and the principles and blessing of the service. By show of hands, how many of you guys have been going to a big church that's old, that's been there for so many years, like, you know, the big church like St. Mary, St. George? Anybody? Oh, okay. Did you move here to St. Basil? Did you feel a difference? What was different?
More focused.
More focused on what?
On individuals, I guess. I felt like the servants know the kids better, and it's more attention on the kids.
Okay.
And more like servant to kids rate, like a lower ratio.
Yeah, lower ratio between the servants and the kids. Okay. What else? Eli?
I think that like the Abuna will know you a bit better.
The one that knows you, right? Yeah.
You can't hide.
Exactly. What else?
I think the kids are able to like it helps if they're able to like see the altar and like even get excited or involved. Like when I go back home for Easter with my kids to St. Mark's in Toronto,
You're
don't
lost.
like it at all. It's,
Yeah.
it's ginormous.
Yeah.
They don't even know what.
What about not for the kids? What about for us? Like, what did you feel different?
I think it's nice to just be like see the altar and just be more focused.
So, okay, let me ask it in a different way. A church that's established for so many years versus a church that's just starting, like young, not small. I meant young.
Like in a big church, you're sort of like one cog in a big machine, whereas here, like the service is more in need, and you almost have like a much bigger effect, and everything you do kind of, you know.
That's exactly what I was going to. Yeah. So when you are put in a small, growing, young church, like this church has been what, 10 years? I don't know, not even. How many? Yeah. So like around 10 years, there's a need, right? So being in a small church is a very unique experience. Very, not small, I want to say young, okay? Very unique experience, because if you go to a big church, sometimes you don't feel like there's a place for you to serve. Everything's already been taken care of, and it's you just go in and you really eat the fruits of someone else's labor, right? But when you go to a young, growing church, there is a place for you. There is a need, and you will have to serve. And things are different. Why? Because instead of you bringing your kids, or you even as a youth, you just go in and, you know, watch the choir on New Year's Eve. No, you're gonna be on that stage, helping and playing, and you know, helping, setting up everything, and then you're watching your kids from behind the curtain because you're one of the people involved. Basically, you're not gonna be in the back seat anymore. You're gonna be driving with God's Google map, right? You're gonna be more involved. You're here not by coincidence. It's a very special privilege that God put you in a growing church, because you will find the need and you will be serving. Okay, so congratulations for being in this church. You know, and then we experienced it too. We both started Archangel Michael, and then San Marina came out, 20 families. We were there, and the church got big, and then St. Paul started with 20 families. We were there, and it was a very, very changing experience, you know. Then when you go to a big church already and you don't serve. So serving, this is why today we're talking about serving. It's a very, very unique relationship with God when you go in the service. So the encounter with St. Peter is one of my favorite the encounter after resurrection. So as we know, St. Peter, you know, messed up, right? Denied Christ or whatever. We don't have to rub it in the guy, right? But he ended up not with a very good note before Christ was crucified. And when Christ died, like on the cross, and he was gone for 3 days, and the disciples they had such a big void, right? What happened to the guy we were following 3 years? So after Christ was gone for this little time, and he was arrested in that whole, you know, like humiliated in the cross and all that, the disciples were very scared, disappointed, depressed. What now? What should we do? So Peter had one of those very low points, right? And he said, I'm going to go fishing. But remember, Christ said, follow me. You're not supposed to fish. I'm going to go fishing. Who's coming? Remember, Peter was a leader, right? So a bunch of them like, we'll go with you. You know what, whatever. Let's go, you know. So they all went to the boat, and, you know, we all know that encounter what happened, and Christ came to the shore. This is after resurrection, okay? Came to the shore, and he said, hey, do you have fish? And he said, no. And he said, throw your net on the right. You know all the story, right? But then fast forward a little bit after they went to shore, and they ate the nice barbecue that Jesus had for them, you know. He was barbecuing already some fish for him. He had a one-on-one encounter because he knew that Peter was broken, right? He messed up. He's supposed to be the leader. He was building him for 3 years, and because he's a human, he messed up, right? He denied him. So Christ wanted to rebuild him again. He felt the brokenness in him. He felt that Peter himself doesn't even trust his own love to Christ. So he wanted to rebuild this again. And he asked him, what question? Do you love me? But not just do you love me, right? He said, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? Because he said, even if all these people leave you, I will follow you, you know? And then he asked him this question 3 times, right? And he said, yes. But the answer of Christ is what we want to focus on. He said, do you love me? He said, yes, Lord, I love you. He said, feed my lamb. Second time he goes, tend my sheep. Third time he says, feed my sheep. So loving him meant what? Serving him, right? So that's basically a very clear way Christ says that my love language is service. If you love me, you serve me. So you take out the word love, you replace it with service. For him, it's interchangeable. So very important to serve him. If you love him, you serve him, you know? So Christ himself, he is telling us how important it is to be in the service team. This is why everyone in the congregation should be serving. Everyone should be serving. So the church is the body of Christ, and it has different organs, right? So if you think about the head, for example, this is where you find servants with certain level of wisdom and ability to manage big groups, and people like the priest, the head of the servants, you know, this is the head, right? The eyes are the servants with a vision. They can see far. They can see what our kids need. We need those servants. If we don't have servants with a vision, we're going to lose the youth, for example. So this is the ability to look ahead and see what is needed in the future of the church. The hands, the working people. There are certain people have this. They can be the hand of the church. They make the urban. They get the supplies. They get things done, right? So that's another part of the service. The legs. Some servants are good about walking, visiting, going to reach out to people, going out of their way to talk and bring kids to go visitations, you know. So that's the legs, you know, the part of the body. Ears. Some people have the ability to listen. There's a lot of people who have nobody to talk to and to cry to. Kids in Sunday school. Some kids are going through a lot, and there are servants that have the ability to be good ears and listen to them. Nose. These are the people who stop and smell the roses of the Bible. They can meditate. They're good at meditating. They're good at delivering beautiful feelings of the Bible and meditation. Okay. Mouth. Some servants have the ability to talk, to give speeches, to teach, to educate. Like we've seen Pope Shinoda, for example, the previous Pope. He, you know, there's a whole lot of generation that grew up listening and learning from him. He was an educator, bless you. So now there is in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, St. Paul says, those members of the body which seem to be weaker are necessary, and those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, on these we bestow greater honor, and our presentable parts have greater modesty. He's talking about also some servants who are serving very secretly. Like, if you think about it, we can do our nails, we can take care of our hair, but are we doing the same thing with our liver and our heart, our brain, you know? Those organs are hidden. We can live with no nails, we can live with no hair, but there are some vital organs that are working secretly. We don't control them, they just work and keep us alive. And those are the servants that work secretly in the church. A lot of things are done, we don't know how they're done. Like all of a sudden, you know, you come on Sunday and the lefafas are clean. A lot of things are done, you know. Also, you know, some hidden services are the Urban people. Now they're becoming famous because they're doing such a good job, and you always ask who made the Urban. But this is a very amazing service that's done in hidden. Nobody sees those people making this in the middle of the night, but yet we come and we have a liturgy because of them. So there are a lot of hidden services too. But a big part of the service is praying for people. Some people invest time and energy in actually praying for people in the church and the service in the church. This is a service, okay? Blessing of the service. We're just going to cover a couple of points. First of all, we have to look at the service as a privilege. It's a privilege. It's not a volunteer time. And it's something that Sam and Abuna always stress on. We're not here because we're just volunteering our time. It's because we are taking this as a privilege that we're actually on his team. The first blessing that we can talk about is the blessing of encountering Christ himself directly, right? You want to see Christ personally, you have to go to the deep. And you have to get your hands dirty and you have to go in the service. When we serve his kids, we serve him himself, okay? I'm sure most of you know Abuna Mikhail Ibrahim. When he used to go visit the sick, he would take his shoes off. And it was always a habit. And somebody asked him, the deacon with him, why are you doing this? He said, because he said, if I was sick and you visited me, I am going to visit Christ. It's holy room because Christ is here and I'm visiting him. So the service is done directly to Christ. And when you really serve, you start really encountering Christ. Like, for example, Sam Bishoy, who washed the feet of the strangers, one at a time, it was manifested to him and he actually saw that it was Christ, right? There was a little story that I'm going to mention really quick. So Pope Carolus was being treated by his own physician. So during feasts, usually it becomes crowded and the security is high because, you know, it's always like scary to have a bunch of Christians in one, you know, church crowded. You know what happens in Egypt. But anyway, during feasts, there has to be an official invitation for certain people to be able to attend that liturgy of resurrection and nativity. So one time during resurrection, the security guards were standing outside and looking at the invitations and making sure you were invited to be able to come. So the physician of Baba Krolos was one of the people, very honorable people that came with his invitation. Right next to him was a poor guy who the guards wouldn't let him in. You're not invited and you don't look like you belong in that group. So anyway, wouldn't let him in. So the doctor said, I'll just take him. He's with me. He's my guest. So he took him in. After the liturgy, where are you going? He's like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't have a place to go to, but thank you for letting me in. He's like, no, come over to my house. So he goes to his house. His wife opens the door and he sees like, who is this? So his wife wasn't like very, very kind at that moment, and she said, no, I'm not gonna just bring a guy looking like that in our house. I don't even know who he is. And the doctor insisted. He's like, you know what? It's a feast night and I'm not letting him go. Just give me a plate, give me a couple of plates and I'll take him to my clinic and we'll eat together. So he took some food and he took him to his clinic and he started eating and he said, bless, my friend. So right when he's stretching his hand to bless the food, the doctor sees the hole in his hand and the guy disappeared. I can't imagine how the wife feels, right? But this is just telling you that he was serving. His heart went out for someone like that, and he saw Christ directly. Of course, not all the time we're gonna see this, but he's there in our service, and you will encounter him more and more in your service. The second one is the blessing of witnessing and experiencing God's miraculous work. So when you are in the service, you will see miracles. Things happen out of nowhere, It's like you're going in a new zone. I remember in Orange County, there was a little tunnel when we used to drive by that tunnel, and Abuna would be like, okay guys, we're about to go to the tunnel. When we come out of the tunnel, we're going to be in a different world. Remember?
When the kids were young.
Yeah. And then we would come out of the tunnel, everybody's like, whoa, look at this world is interesting, and the trees are like that. So service is almost like that. When you start serving, you see you're in a different zone now. You start seeing miracles, you start seeing things, and it's really different,
From a different perspective.
From a different perspective, and you see things done, and you just see God's hands doing miracles, you know. A little story, there was a priest who served in a poor area in Egypt, and the church needed 7,000 Egyptian pounds, and he didn't know what to do. Very poor area, there's needs for poor and the service, and he didn't know what to do. So he went to church that night, and he was waiting for anybody to come confess. Nobody showed up. Anybody wanted to pray? Nobody showed up. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna sit there on the stairs and pray. So he was sitting there and praying, and then a man pulls up, you know, and he comes with a suit and everything. And he said, Abuna, I didn't even know that there's a church that exists here. It was after St. Mercurius Abu Sufyan. How do you even get in here? I almost got lost. Almost like I went through, you know, lots of little streets from the highway to come to you. But anyway, I have some donation for church that I was looking for a church that needs. So he gave him $1,000. So Abuna was so happy. So the guy's like, he left and buy and stuff, and then Abuna said, good job, Abu Sufyan, but I still need what? 6,000. I need 6 more. So 5 minutes later, he sees the same guy coming back. He's like, Abuna, you know what? It's getting late. I had 6 other churches that I was going to give donations. Here's the other 6,000. And of course, and Abuna, he was a young Abuna in the service. After that day, he never worried about money again. He saw the hand of Christ working miraculously. So if you think about the miracle of the 5 loaves, who are really witnessing the miracle? I mean, it's thousands of people eating. The people in far probably just ate and didn't know where the food's coming from, right? But the disciples who were stressed, where are we going to get the food? And Christ's like, you get them the food. What do you mean get them the food? All we have is this and that. They were in the heat with him, right? They were leading in the service. And they were the one who really witnessed it. Like Transfiguration. Who really witnessed it? Peter, John, and James, right? The people who were in kind of Galilee wedding. The people had wine. They were happy. They had no idea where that wine came from. Where did it come from? Jesus performed a huge miracle, right? In the kitchen. So the people, the servants, the Saint Mary, the people who were involved in the problem with Christ saw and witnessed the miracle. So you have to be so close in the service. You have to go close to him to witness the miracles that happen, right? The third point, and we have a lot, but I'm just gonna say the third blessing is it's the way to our salvation. It's passport to heaven. In Matthew 19, he said, then Peter answered and said to him, see, we have left all and followed you. Therefore, what shall we have? So Jesus said to them, assuredly I say to you that in the regeneration, when the Son of Man sits on the throne of his glory, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And then John 12:26. Remember that verse? It's one of my favorite. He said, if anyone serves me, let him follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, him my Father will honor. So where is Christ going when he ascended? Where did he go? He sat on the right side on the throne. So his servants are going to be sitting on his throne with him. What a privilege, right? So that's such an honor. That's such a passport to heaven. And not just to heaven, but to actually front seats in heaven, right? So think about that verse when you get drained and you get tired of the service, or you're thinking about not serving. Remember that you're going to be sitting on his throne with him. Why is it our passport to heaven also? It's because it does change the person. Service changes people. You're not going to be the same person if you actually get involved in a service. Moses, who was known for his temper, right? He murdered when in his rage. He became known as the most patient person, right? He was very patient after all these years of service with the people. St. Peter, how he changed. St. Paul, he became, this from violent person going after Christians to a legend in our church. So service does change people. There was a little story with Abuna Bshoy Kamel, the late. One lady came to him and she said, Abuna, my husband does not want to give any donation to church. He makes $100, well, 100 pounds of Egypt. That's a long time ago. Say $100 a month, and he doesn't want to give the $10. So Abuna said, it's okay, I'll go visit. So he went to visit the family, and he told the guy, you know what, you don't have to pay the whole 10. It might be too hard for you. But all I'm going to ask you to do is to go to that one family. I'll give you an address to a widow with 4 kids. Just go to them once a week and give them some fruits and vegetables to sustain them. So the guy's like, oh, it's easy. It's probably like 2 pounds, during that time. So every month he would go, and what do you need? And he gives them some vegetables and leaves. After a couple of months, he asked Abuna, is it okay if I build a roof? They don't have a roof and winter's coming. So they were living in a it's made of, I don't know what it's even made of, like not even like bricks, right? There's no roof. And Abuna's like, sure. So he helped until he built a roof. And then a couple months later, Abuna, can I actually help them build a house made of bricks, so they can survive the winter? Sure. He did it. After that, Abuna, can I have another family? So the man changed completely after he tasted serving with Christ, and he started serving more and more, and he's a very different person. So service does change one's heart. So if we view service as an honorable thing and not volunteer hours, the way we serve is going to be very different, and the way we approach it is going to be very different. We have to be honest and serious in our service. The Lord's first desire is for our salvation, and He can do all this work without us, right? But He's choosing us to help doing it because it is good for us more than anything else. Like imagine being recruited to serve with like the president, or even if we say, oh, I'm so proud to say, we started San Marina with Abuna Tedros Yaoub, and he's a legend in our church. But then imagine you're actually being recruited by Christ. You're on His team. So I'm serving with Christ Himself, the Creator. Very, very big privilege. I don't want to take more than that, but I will end with something that I always pictured that Pope Shenouda said. At the end of days, when we're up there, St. Paul will come in front of Christ's throne, and behind him nations, and he'll say, here I am, and here are the children you've given me. St. Anthony will come with thousands and hundreds of thousands of nuns and monks all over the world, and he'll say, here I am, and here are the children that you give me. So St. Mark is going to come, here I am, and the whole Church of Alexandria comes behind him, right? Like, when my day comes, who am I going to have behind me? Am I going to have anybody? Is there somebody to show off for, to say, here I am and here are my children? Hopefully I look back and there's somebody behind me. So remember that, and Christ says, I died for you, will you live for me? The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, and this is in Matthew, therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers in His harvest. There are a lot of work to be done, and we need a lot of servants. That's all I have. I hope it didn't take too long.